It's also weird when I'm getting quite het up talking about it right now, actually. When I got on my feet and we kind of stood there, the terror of thinking, like, because Mike had kind of glazed over. I've spoken to Mike about this and asked him, is he okay if me talking about it? And he is, and in the book and everything. He'd glazed over as well. My dad had already lost it a little while before this, do you know what I mean? In that morning, Mike's kind of on the edge, and I'm just thinking this could really, really, really go wrong.
Virgin Radio.
What comes across in your book is unbelievable humility and unbelievable gratitude, and also the lessons that you've learned are there in spades. Let's talk about the Portakabin years.
I know, it's amazing, actually.
Just tell everybody, give us a minute on the Portakabin.
Okay, so my dad was a character, to say the least, and he had his upsides, and he definitely had his very, very dark downsides. He'd always had a little business. Most of his brothers did as well, one thing and another. And we lived in a house with bricks and mortar and rooms in it and central heating and all of that. And at some point, my dad changed business, got this field in, the little town I'm from, Newtley Willows, and decided he was going to start a garden centre. Now, when we were on summer holiday from school, because I was about 14, and we went to go and live in a Portakabin that he'd placed in the middle of this field, it was kind of an adventure. And it was like, okay, what is this, But my sister Jane had left home by then, had her own life. So it's 3 brothers and a dad, and we're in a Portakabin.
Mum and Dad aren't together anymore?
No, so Mum and Dad divorced when I was about 4 or 5. And never spoke to each other either, by the way. So that's a whole thing, and I explain that a little bit in the book, and But anyway, back to the Portakabin. But then when you have to go to school as a 14-year-old and try and explain to people who aren't your immediate friends... Yeah. That you live in a tin hut in a field. Not to mention, by the way, that my dad loved horses, and my sister had a horse as well. We weren't wealthy, but he just splurged on certain things that he really liked.
He knew how to make a few quid.
He did. He always had a bit of cash, and he was pretty generous with it as well. He wasn't motivated by most things that a lot of people are, to be honest.
He was on the right day. He was the most generous man in the world. On the worst day, he was the most unkind man in the world.
Kind of, yeah. Certainly with emotion and stuff. He couldn't control himself. Basically. And so back to the Portakabin. It was just unbelievable to go to school because we have this thing that the term trailer trash, for instance, like is a very American sort of term, if you like, and I never saw myself as that exactly. It was just a weird existence. But what it led to as well was that because he built this garden centre with a massive big greenhouse and everything, the first drum kit that I ever had went in there, so I was playing drums whenever I wanted in the middle of a field. Not many kids can just go and play drums whenever they want. Invite a couple of friends round, start a band, make a racket, do what have you. So he was very generous in lots of ways, enabling me to do that. But it was also a nightmare because he looked like, I've said this occasionally, he looked like something out of Huckleberry Finn. He really did. Big straw hat. He's got a horse and a trap, and playing brass band music out of a boombox on that thing as well. And it's just like, who is this dude? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he blazed his own trail. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, he definitely did.
So you suffer the upsides and the downsides of the Portakabin. So in Rick's book, it says basically Rick goes to school. He has to... Lads, ladies, I got to tell you something. In the playground, we live in a Portakabin now. And so they listen for a while and they go... That sounds amazing. We wish we lived in a Portakabin.
Well, it was half and half because obviously the sheer nature of having a garden centre, we had like a forklift truck, we had a tractor, we had a pickup truck, we had this, we had that. There was like there was machinery and tools everywhere.
Yeah.
And even as a 14, 15-year-old, I was driving all that nonsense, do you know what I mean, doing all those things. And my dad was very much like, we need this. And that could be a new building of some kind.
25,000 strawberry plants.
Exactly. It could be anything, and he'd just do it. Yeah. So it was kind of a bit of an adventure, but in the moment, looking back, I look back now, probably with rose-coloured spectacles. I know, you know what I mean?
Strawberry-coloured spectacles.
But again, I also think how many parents or dads would have been in a situation where their kids could have a permanent setup of drums and amps 100%. And all the rest of it. And as long as the garden centre's closed and people have gone home, obviously, we can just go in there and make a racket. So for us, it was like it was pretty amazing to have that,
Yeah, I mean, there's a great thing about, never judge your own life via somebody else's scorecard.
Right.
You know, and there's the whole thing about the inner scorecard is far more important than the outer scorecard. Is it important to be good at something and people think you're not, or not be good at something and people think you are? That kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and
sure.
It's a sort of physical, familial version of that. And then here comes his like massive, open, kind-hearted side again, because you then get a serious first gig, and then he says, well, you need a new drum kit then. And he buys you a new drum kit, and again you go, I can't figure this guy out.
But he was very, I mean, his mood swings were unbelievable, and I know we're kind of, and I'm glad we're making light of it and fun of it, and fun with it. My 2 older brothers and my older sister, that's what we do. We always remember it fondly, even the terrifying moments, and even the moments we were...
Okay, let's mention that. So it started, the first few pages of your book are so astonishingly terrifying.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, we've all been through various things, but basically, my dad wasn't physical towards us. He never really beat us, hit us, or anything. I think he hit me twice. Once, I think I fully deserved it, so I'll take that one on the chin. And it was a different time, different period, everything. The second time wasn't. He just completely lost it one day, and he kind of knocked me to the ground. It was really early in the morning. This is at the garden centre. I'm actually working at the garden centre at this point. I've left school. I'm probably 16. I think I'm 17, something like that. And my brother Mike, who's not the kind of guy normally to jump into a situation necessarily and say, I'm going to save you, I'm going to take control, I'm going to whatever. He just kept his head down and did what he did in life. He's very different to that today. He basically came out of the Portakabin that we lived in with an 8-inch bread knife and put it to my dad's throat and basically said, this ends here. You don't move an inch or I'll end you. And that was quite a thing in so many ways, because it's the transitional point of like, okay, we're obviously going to leave this place now and go and live somewhere else somehow, but also like, you don't have the power over us anymore. You're not, this is just, he's put down a marker and said, this is ending today. All your bull whatever is ending today. And it was, I mean, it's also weird when I'm getting quite het up talking about it right now, actually. When I got on my feet and we kind of stood there, the terror of thinking like, because Mike had kind of glazed over. I've spoken to Mike about this and asked him, is he okay if me talking about it? And he is, and in the book and everything. He'd glazed over as well. My dad had already lost it a little while before this, do you know what I mean? In that morning, Mike's kind of on the edge, and I'm just thinking this could really, really, really go wrong. But thankfully, it kind of sort of calmed down. And so we left. Mike was still in his slippers, and he's holding a great big bread knife in his hand. And we just walked through Newtley Willows and walked to my grand's house. And yeah, I'm sure people have had far worse and all this, but that was our worst. But it was such a shift in
that was
like,
your
well,
bottom.
What do we do now? What, and I did make it up with my dad afterwards, kind of thing, without even really talking that through. We just kind of put it to bed, and but yeah.
Well, that's why the book's amazing. And I've been talking about the book the whole show, but it starts off with that particular story. Also, it starts off with a great trail. Rick trails his book brilliantly in the introduction. And he says, little did I know how my life was going to turn out, because basically all the odds were stacked against what seems to have happened has happened. You were quite punk at school, in as much as is it true that you didn't write a word down for any of your O-levels?
No, I didn't. But again, I'm going
to give it a round of applause. It's probably not the best educational.
That's nothing to applaud.
I think it is, but obviously, no, don't applaud it. But anyway,
I would say to any young people
you
listening,
must go for
do
it.
your exams, just get stuck in, do them, get them done, get them out of the way if you have to, get them done, and create a life for yourself. And that's where it starts. Is getting educated. No, I could sing, but it was also the fact that, truthfully, we just all knew we were going to work at my dad's garden centre.
Right.
It was a time when all the industry around us, the coal mines, the everything, was all getting closed. And what used to happen in schools where I'm from, you left school and went into a factory, or you went down a pit, or you did, It was
inevitable.
And that was all going. And so thankfully, my dad did have a little business, and so we didn't really give it a second thought.
Punk.
Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that.
The fact, when I read that, I thought, what, you didn't answer any questions on any O level?
Not a word. No. And the irony being is, I actually
never heard anybody do
No,
that
I actually
before.
liked some of the subject. I think what it was, I was saying to myself, I wasn't even saying to the teachers or the school or anybody. I was just kind of saying, there is 0 point. It doesn't matter what qualification I get. I'm going to be driving a pickup truck for my dad.
And that was the end of that.
Yeah.
All right, so they're the Portakabin years. There's more about the Portakabin years, but read the book. This book is absolutely fantastic. I hope you're sort of getting the message as to how come it's fantastic. Rick Astley, never the autobiography. He's been asked to write this book so many times, and he's finally gone and written it with the help of
Alexis Petridis,
who's done an amazing job.
He's amazing. He's
Amazing
a lovely.
job.
We've both. I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but we've both shed a tear at times working on it, because it brings up memories for everybody. I think when you start going through someone's, you reflect on your own then and start going, actually, that echoes my thing.
I was at the party last night.
Yeah.
Don't get me going.
Okay.